for me, please? Get live on, okay. Blocked from sharing posts from your account have recently been removed for going against your community. So has been temporarily blocked. Oh, wow.
You've been blocked already. Well, that's why we got backup.
Well, hello. Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning. News. Huh? No, it's like for Insta?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Wow. Good morning, all. So welcome, TikTokers. Welcome, YouTubers. And unfortunately, we are not on Instagram this morning because I am not allowed to go live, apparently, on Instagram. The hilarity of it all. Can I share with you all why I apparently have been blocked for Instagram? Because I think this is quite funny. Yeah. I tried to post something a couple of days ago. It was a quote. And then within seconds, that quote was taken down. And this is literally why I'm not able to get onto Instagram. By the way, I am Lisa, also known as the AlkaliYogi, and we are here to decode Health 101. It's a wonderful book called How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. I'm on chapter 11. If you've missed the first few chapters, you can go back to the beginning by going to my YouTube channel and my Instagram. And since we can't post today on Instagram, you're not going to get a full comprehensive view of all the lives that I've done previously. But let me share with you all, fam, why I have been unable to go live, why I'm unable to go live today on Instagram. I tried to share this very post right here, which is hilarious, because I want you guys to understand just how deep the censorship is. It wasn't anything that was hurtful or derogatory, but for this reason alone, I'm not able to go live on Instagram today. And it is due to this post. I'm going to read it to you all, but I just want you to know this is the post that has made it so that I can't go on Insta Live. So not said anything derogatory about anyone or anything. I'm just here trying to share news and information and help you all decode all of the misinformation and disinformation that there is pertaining to health, which is why I want to take it back to the basics, right? Meaning let's not get our health from celebrities who don't know anything about health. Let's not get our health from journalists who also know nothing about health and may have been bought and purchased for all we know, politicians and people who are supposed to be objective and serving us who are no longer serving us. And so let's instead go back to books where actual knowledge and information can be found, right? So going back to books, not memes, not headlines, not clickbaits, not influencers who, again, may not really be equipped to be giving advice on how to procure and restore health. That's why I'm here. That's literally all I'm doing, yeah? And in that, sometimes I have to point out that there is corruption, that politicians, celebrities, and influencers have been bought and paid for. I'm a licensed and certified holistic practitioner with the Czech Institute. And I have been living this lifestyle now for well over a decade. So I am not new to this. I walk it, I live it, I breathe it. And all I want to do is share with you all the information that I have to help you achieve your goals and restore or retain and maintain your health. That's why I'm sharing my resources with you. And I've created this series of lives where basically I go book by book through my library and share some useful information to help you all overstand, fine-tune your behavioral, sort of your habits so that you, again, can do what you're designed to do, which is self-heal, self-regulate, et cetera, et cetera. But let me quickly read to you all, yeah? I've just shared with you this post, but I'm going to read it because maybe you weren't able to read it. This is literally what has me blocked from Instagram. I find the hilarity in this is so deep. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. That is the quote that has me banned on Instagram. Okay? Literally. So this stuff is serious, guys. Why do you think a quote like that would have me banned? Think about it. Really think about it. Apply your own critical thinking. Why would something like this get me banned off of Instagram? If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. What does that remind you of? Does that maybe make you consider lies that have been told to us over, I don't know, the last few years or decades or however long? That was enough that was enough to get me blocked off Instagram. I find that to be fascinating. And I hope that you think about that, because that was not a quote that targeted a marginalized group of people. That was not a quote to disempower anyone. That was not a quote designed to, I don't know, incite violence or anything of the sort. It is literally a quote to make you think, to make you apply your own critical thinking. And the fact that that quote has me now banned off of Instagram should let you know that there are some things going on here. There are some things going on here that are not adding up. The math is not mathing and things are not kosher. Anyways, let's get back to why we are here and why we are live. Like I said to you, I'm here to share the codes, right? And oftentimes people are getting their information once more from irreputable or distrustful sources, such as, again, celebrities and what have you, and people who were spewing like they were health experts over the last 3 years, not to mention billionaires who don't even look particularly fit and healthy, who have been at the forefront of giving advice on how to handle public health in general. So me as a holistic practitioner, as a licensed practitioner through the Czech Institute, decided I wanted to come out and share with you all some of my knowledge, share with you all some of my resources that is coming from actual books, not from headlines, not from memes, not from clickbait posts, etc., etc. Like I said, we are currently decoding Paul Chek's first book titled How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. If you are interested in health, consider this the Bible. It is extremely comprehensive. It is accessible, right? Meaning in that it gives you a step-by-step way for, again, self-healing, becoming your own shaman, or you are already your own shaman, better still, fine-tuning your habits so that you can continue to self-heal, so that you can be your own chemist, yeah? Procure, cultivate your own medicine and take your own medicine. You know what I mean? Because everyone is an individual. We are all different. So there isn't going to be a one size fits all for everyone. There isn't going to be a one size fits all type of movement. So not everyone should be doing cycling or HIIT or CrossFit. There isn't a one size fits all nutrition plan. So not everyone needs to be doing keto or going plant-based, right? You need to understand that because you're an individual, what is going to be best for you is going to be based on your race, your ethnicity, your lifestyle, your stress factors, etc. My job is to help you take the time to go inside and figure out what is best for you by doing things like food journaling, by doing things like going to bed on time, noticing what changes you are experiencing from fine-tuning your nutrition. How do you feel after you've eaten legumes? How do you feel after you've eaten grains? How do you feel after you've eaten meat, right? These are going to be the best ways for you to understand how to fuel and feed your body in the best way possible. It's not following what so-and-so did in order to get slim and trim for their newest movie role. Does that make sense, guys? All right. So we are on chapter 11 of this book. I'll repeat this one more time. If you want to go back to the first or to the series that I've already covered thus far throughout this, because we are currently on chapter 11, you can either come onto my YouTube and revisit my prior lives, or you can also go onto Instagram and you'll be able to get all of the previous lives apart from today's live, because as I've just shared with you all today, I have been blocked on Instagram. So good times for not doing anything shady or questionable, but literally for sharing a profound quote to make the populace wake up, clean up, show up, and grow up. Okay. All right. So, chapter 11 is stress affecting your health? Let's talk about it. Stress is very often the root of many people's problems, whether they recognize it or not. You'll often hear that someone is under too much stress. You too may feel this way, but what exactly is stress? And how can someone withstand more stress than others? Is stress always a bad thing? Well, let's take a look, shall we? So a typical day, you've been so busy preparing for tomorrow's meeting that you didn't realize the hour. You're approaching midnight and you're bush-shed. You need to wind down, so you watch television for a while. At 1:04 in the morning, you're finally relaxed enough to go to sleep. But suddenly you wake in a sweat and know the time is 3:15 in the morning. After a quick trip to the bathroom, you hop back into bed, but you can't get back to sleep. Tomorrow's busy schedule races through your mind. 40 minutes later, you're still lying there, counting backwards from 100, trying to fall asleep. The next thing you know, the alarm clock is ringing off the nightstand. You can't believe that it's already 6 a.m. You feel like you just got to sleep. Just 10 more minutes, you say. Beep, beep, beep. You have to pry your eyes open to see the clock. It's now 6:10 in the morning. And you don't dare hit the snooze button again. You head for the kitchen in search of coffee, knocking on the kids' doors as you pass. Before the water can even begin to drip through the coffee filter, your brain is trying to figure out how to get the kids up, fed, and off to school so that you can take your shower, get dressed, finish off that last report, and get on the road before the traffic jam starts. Does this sound like anyone's day? Finally, the kids are off to school. You're dressed and ready to go when you realize you haven't eaten. No worry, you say you'll grab another coffee and a bagel from the cafe on your way to the office. Work is crazy as usual. Your coworker is sick, so you offer to work through lunch to cover his clients. Between meetings, whilst eating an apple and sipping your fourth cup of coffee, you realize you forgot to pay the bills last weekend. And then your daughter calls to remind you that she has soccer practice tonight. It's 5:06 p.m., and you can't wait to get home. But first, you must drop off the clothes at the cleaners, shop for groceries, work your way through traffic to pick up your daughter at soccer and your son from daycare. Now it's almost 7 p.m. And so you cook dinner whilst trying to prepare for tomorrow's meetings and help the kids with their homework. And of course, you have to get those bills paid. After dinner, exhausted and looking at a pile of dishes and a cluttered kitchen, you wonder how long you'll have to work like this. You have a final cup of coffee, clean up, and get back to preparing your reports for tomorrow. And it's only Monday, but you could swear that it feels like it's a Thursday. Does this sound like you? Or perhaps you're thinking that this would be a relaxing day or perhaps you're thinking that this sounds like a relaxing day comparison to what you experience. Even if your day isn't this chaotic, we all experience some degree of stress. So, what is stress? You probably think of stress as inherently bad, but this isn't always the case. Just as bones and muscles need physical exercise to stay strong, we also need certain amounts of stress to stay healthy. A complete lack of stress would not be a bad thing. Excuse me, sorry. A complete lack of stress would not be a bad thing. Oh, I was correct there. I did read it correctly. There are 6 major types of stress, each of which have good and bad effects. Let's go through them. Physical stress, chemical stress. And if you don't know what that means, we'll get into it. Don't worry. Electromagnetic stress, psychic or mental stress, nutritional stress, and thermal stress. Let's talk about physical stress. The good. So physical stress in the form of movement or exercise is in fact very beneficial. The actual stress comes from loading the muscles and bones of our body under the influence of gravity. Astronauts in space need regular exercise in order to counteract the loss of bone and muscle mass that occurs under zero gravity conditions. Adequate movement and exercise also helps us to maintain an optimal metabolic rate, keeping us from becoming overweight. Considering that only about 8% of men and 3% of women exercise regularly, and that about 60% of Americans are overweight at present, you can see that we are in great need of more of this good stressor. Your metabolic rate, by the way, to define it, is the rate at which all physical and chemical processes take place within your body. The bad, as far as physical stress. Here's the bad side. Now, over exercising can be every bit as bad as not exercising enough. Plot twist. whilst under exercising can contribute to becoming fat and sluggish inside, over exercising can cause immune system suppression. This can lead to increased incidence of upper respiratory infections, chronic fatigue, and a number of other maladies. Extreme exercise for athletes is often linked to poor performance and increased incidence of injury. Another form of adverse physical stress is poor posture. Posture has a significant influence on breathing and muscle function, joint health, circulation, and internal organ support. When the body structure is not in balance, the rest of the system follows. Let's talk about chemical stress. The good. Our bodies are full of chemicals, naturally produced chemicals that are essential for health. The work of producing these chemicals is a necessary stress for the body. For example, when your body systems are working correctly, exercise results in chemical adaptations in the form of hormonal changes that alter your biochemistry, and they increase protein synthesis, energy production, and a myriad of other chemical reactions. The action of sunlight on the skin results in the production of vitamin D, for instance, and the regulation of the hormones melatonin and cortisol, both chemical reactions. And animal foods, preferably raised organically, are made up of organic chemicals, vitamins, enzymes, proteins, fats, all that we need to survive. Now let's talk about bad chemical stress. Today, we are bombarded with thousands upon thousands of chemicals that were not around 100 years ago. Many of these chemicals are synthetic, and our bodies do not have the mechanisms to neutralize them. Synthetically manufactured medical drugs, such as aspirin, are amongst the most common forms of unfavorable chemical stress. Other examples of dangerous chemical stressors are agricultural chemicals, such as pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and certain fertilizers. These chemicals are often made from the same formulas used to make biological weapons. Nearly 2 billion pounds of these chemicals are sprayed on our food each year in the US alone. Many health problems have been linked to this form of chemical stress. So in case you don't know this, I'll just explain to you that after the Second World War, what happened was basically corporatism started to become a thing as corporations decided that they were not ready to forego the profits that they were making during the Second World War by, selling petroleum and the like to governments. They then began to lobby and decided to repurpose that petroleum that was being used and sold during war times to now make, i.e. pharmaceutical drugs, herbicides, fungicides, fertilizers, etc. That is literally how petroleum companies were able to maintain profits that were comparable to that they were experiencing during the Second World War. At our cost, they were able to convince the government that it would be a good idea to just repurpose harmful chemicals that, as I just read to you, have been used for biological weapons as a means to now, make quote unquote medicine or make quote unquote sprays for food under the guise that we simply could not have enough. The earth is simply not abundant enough. We would not be growing enough food, procuring enough food for the growing population. If we were not to spray and apply chemical toxic matter to these foods. So some of you might be thinking, well, there wouldn't be enough if we didn't spray our foods. The thing is, you don't know that to be true because this was an estimate. This was a hypothesis that was never actually allowed to play out. And so there's no evidence of that. You have no data. If it were if we're going by Al Gore's estimates from An Inconvenient Truth, then we'd all be living underwater for the most part, would we not? As of 7 years ago or so. So not all estimates are accurate estimates. And again, here we are allowing for man and man's ego to sort of downplay what Mother Earth is capable and able to do for us. And it's kind of discrediting her before we've even given her the chance to see if she could, in fact, provide for us. There is a ton of waste as far as food goes, especially over here in the West, in the United States and Canada specifically, that I would, again, debate that there is a shortage of food. I would say that there is an overabundance of waste, but I don't know that there is an undersupply or availability of food available to the masses. And again, there simply isn't any data to back that up. These were just predictions, and predictions have been wrong more than once. Let's talk about electromagnetic stress, shall we? So there is good electromagnetic stress. Certainly, my favorite form of electromagnetic stress is sunlight. Without sunlight, we wouldn't be alive. I'd say that qualifies as sunlight is a good I'd say that qualifies sunlight as a good electromagnetic stress form. The electromagnetic field of the Earth is also a good form of this kind of stress. This invisible field helps control the rhythm of our hormones and other psychological functions. A common example of the Earth's electromagnetic effects can be experienced when weather patterns change. On the onset of a thunderstorm, many people feel changes in their joints, muscles, and even their moods. Maybe some of you can relate to that. The bad. So the most obvious bad form of electromagnetic stress is overexposure to sunlight, resulting in sunburn. In Australia and New Zealand, the ultraviolet rays are poorly filtered by the thin ozone layer. This means you can begin to burn in under 12 minutes on a summer's day. Most people know that overexposure to radiation, such as medical x-rays, can also be harmful to your health. Overlooked is the extremely low frequency ELF pollution emitted by electronic devices such as computers, cell phones, microwave ovens, electric motors, your TVs, and even an electric blanket. Many of these forms of stress are insidious, causing dysfunction in your hormonal and autonomic nervous system. So this is what we would call dirty pollution or dirty EMFs. If you can, it would be to your benefit and to that of your families, your household, for you to unplug your devices when not in use. Also, unplugging things like your Wi-Fi router at night, very beneficial. I'm sure many of you could benefit and get a more restful sleep because you wouldn't be buzzing. And if you're wondering why you're buzzing, well, consider this. Many people out there have mercury fillings. Many people are drinking tap water with fluoride. Many people have been inoculated with products which carry the same base. So whether your inoculation has been for the vid, or whether your inoculation has been for hepatitis, or whether your inoculation has been for yellow fever, the base is always the same. And that is aluminum and mercury, and then human tissue. So the point is, we are all carrying a certain amount of heavy metals in our body. This makes us a conduit for electricity. So the more electricity that we're surrounded by, right, and the more metals that we have, not to mention they also spray heavy metals in the air and on our food, yada, yada, yada. So we're constantly consuming heavy metals. Of course, now we've become a conduit for electricity. So if you are able to unplug or reduce how much electricity is running through the home at night, many of you would see an increase in terms of your quality of, would see an improvement rather in the quality of your sleep. No cap. Try it out. Give it a go for a week. You might be pleasantly surprised, at the quality of sleep that you get. Bluetooth, again, something else that creates vibration in the body that disrupts your hormonal functions, etc., that can create anxiety and then lead to things like depression and a whole host of other health issues. So again, understanding that this lifestyle, as convenient as it is, as flashy as it is, as much as we may or may not enjoy it, is so far removed from how our ancestors were living 50 and even 75 years ago that our evolution, our DNA, our cells have simply not caught up, because they would take eons to catch up to this kind of lifestyle. Yes, the body is constantly adapting and changing. Yes, our molecular system is constantly changing and evolving. But you have to understand that this happens very slowly over time. I think the ratio is something like 1/100th every 100 years. I could be wrong. Anyone who knows the answer to that should actually put it in the comment section, or add it. I would love for any scientists to chime in. But I know that evolution happens very, very slowly, incrementally. And so what I'm saying to you is that it's not surprising that we have a whole host of diseases and disruptions in our ability to live, because we have introduced so many new ways of living in the last 50 to 75 years that our bodies just simply don't recognize. They just simply don't recognize all of this exposure to blue light. Our ancestors used to go to bed and rise with the sun, right? They simply don't recognize, and our bodies simply don't recognize and are not familiar with all of this buzzing, all of this exposure and consumption of heavy metals. And by the way, the amount of heavy metal that's considered to be safe in the body is exactly zero. It's exactly zero. And yet I've just named for you numerous ways in which we are consuming and being exposed to heavy metals in our quote unquote modern life. So have a think about that. Psychic or mental stress. The good. Thinking and using your mind thinking and using your mind productively represents good psychic or mental stress. Having a plan or setting goals in your life and doing the work to achieve them is also a positive form of distress. Other examples include overcoming adversity to become a stronger, better person. Without psychic stress, our minds would not develop fully, right? So the mind, being a muscle like anything else, needs to be exercised. We can appreciate this and understand this. Now, the bad. A common form of bad psychic stress is focusing on the things that you don't want in life instead of the things that you do want. This is what Paul Chek calls stinking thinking. Other forms of psychic stress include verbal abuse from others, studying so much that your mental faculties begin to diminish, and challenging religious or spiritual beliefs that are imposed on you and challenging religious or spiritual beliefs that are imposed upon you, even if self-imposed. Being rushed or taking more work on responsibility than you can manage will also produce unhealthy psychic stress. I have a bit of psychic stress this morning. For those of you that are just tuning in, my psychic stress is censorship. Is censorship. How I can't openly share with you all that it's important to understand that not everything that's being communicated to you via the mainstream is going to be honest and truthful, that there are going to be lies. And in some case, just not even willing lies, but, faulty assessments and faulty conclusions that are made by people and leaders who are humans at the end of the day, politicians and leaders who are just humans, who are susceptible to that. So my stress this morning is in the fact, my psychic stress is the fact that I can't tell, apparently, my supporters on Instagram that you should not take everything that is told to you as truth, and that you should, in fact, not question anything. That's my psychic stress, because that's what got me blocked off of Instagram this morning. All right, nutritional stress. Let's get into it. The good. Eating in accordance with your primal pattern. Eating organic foods and not over or under eating are all representations of good nutritional stress. So if you missed my lives on primal patterns, primal pattern is another way of saying also metabolic typing. It's about understanding sort of your ancestral makeup. We have very thorough questionnaires as Chek practitioners like myself. I assign these to my clients to basically determine what your metabolic and your primal pattern type is. And what does that mean? It means that basically if your ancestral makeup is that of Scandinavian, you do not need to be eating, you do not need to be living off of tropical fruits. Conversely, if your ancestral makeup is that of someone that lives near the equator, you don't need to be eating gamey meats or, fatty fish, right? So understanding that you can't get caught up with what the masses are doing. In fact, you should never, ever look at what the masses are doing. You should really just always look to what you need, because you're an individual, and just how you look like no one else on the outside, your insides are equally unique. And so you need to feed yourself and learn to feed yourself in a way that makes sense for you. Food journaling, get a chart practitioner like myself to do your metabolic typing, your primal pattern. These are the steps to you starting to figure out, well, what fuels me? Because I am an individual, and therefore I have bio-individuality. Make sense? All right. In these instances, the term stress is used to indicate the stress of digestion, assimilation, and metabolizing of foods. For example, your body must be stressed with the challenge of extracting nutrition from your food, or it will become lazy, much like a person's muscles will become lazy if you put them in a sling or a cast and don't use them. The bad, well, eating too much. Eating too much or too little, or eating the wrong food proportions for your primal pattern diet are unhealthy forms of nutritional stress. Consuming foods with toxins such as pesticides, herbicides, food preservatives, colorings, thickeners, emulsifiers, and the like, they can all be very stressful to the body as well. And in my opinion, this type of stress form from food is responsible for a large percentage of disease today. Well, Hippocrates did say it himself, did he not? Thank you, Living Ishe Reviews. Hippocrates said it himself, did he not? Him being the father, as we know him to be, of Western medicine, that food is thy medicine. But did you know, fam, that about 80% of the Ivy League schools in the United States and their pre-med programs teach exactly 0 hours on nutrition? So in other words, the young doctors that are coming out now, that are being churned out of these Ivy League schools, get exactly 0 hours of nutritional training. And yet, food is thy medicine. Medicine is thy food, right? Or as in the words of Steve Jobs, and another great quote from Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, make food your medicine, or make medicine your food. Ponder that. Think about that. Meditate on that. All right, so we're going to lastly cover thermal stress, and then we're going to wrap this up for today. Thermal stress, the good, maintaining your body temperature at 98.6 Fahrenheit. That's 37 degrees centigrade. Let me repeat that. 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees centigrade is the most obvious of the good thermal stressors. When it's hot or cold outside, the thermoregulator system is stressed in order to keep your internal temperature constant. It's a good stress. It is good stress. This system, it's good to stress this system now and again to maintain dynamic capacity. In other words, a cold shower is great, right? Where most of us in the West will have hot showers, but we also have heated homes. Some of us have heated floors. We have heated vehicles, right? So again, you need that ebb and that flow, that yang and that yin, right? So if you begin your shower and it's hot, consider in order to help things like your circulation, your metabolic rate, your hormonal production, etc., consider rinsing off in cold water, right? Because you need both. There's ebb and flow. So that would be a good way to stress your system out temporarily. The bad would be anything that burns you. So in the form of being, again, overexposed to heat. In addition, the opposite thermal stress would be anything that brings your body temperature too low for an extended period of time. So being exposed to, again, very cold climates for an extended period of time, you could obviously go into hyperthermia. So the 6 types of the stressors that we've just described can be broken down into 2 groups, internal and external. I won't get into that today because I feel like we've had a good enough live for today. I hope that you're able to take something from that. And if not, please feel free to pop questions into the comment sections on either platform. If you need to DM me, I'll do my best to get back to you all. Please, those of you that are just being introduced to me today, whether it be on YouTube or on TikTok, since today is officially my first time doing a live on TikTok. Go check me out on YouTube as AlkaliYogi. Go find me on Instagram, also under AlkaliYogi, spelled AlkaliYogi. And you can see the previous lives that I've done so that you can catch up. We are, after all, on chapter 11. We're almost done with this book. After this book, I will be moving on to a different book because, like I said, I've begun this series so that we can all get accurate information, sound right knowledge, which you can't get from sound bites and people who are claiming to be influencers and know something about health, but maybe don't live the lifestyle, or maybe have been sponsored by a company who are not really about it, and maybe not in a position to be offering advice. And also, given that, a lot of people are going through financial hardships, not everyone has these books in their library. I am very fortunate. I have many books in my library. I could also have more books, but I acknowledge that I have many books in my library. And what I want to do is just to begin to share some of these resources. And my hope is that you'll also share with me, because I don't hold all of the codes and all of the answers. This is not meant to be a monologue. This is, in fact, meant to be a conversation. So, if you have books that you would like me to read that I have, let me know, and I'll bring them up. Or alternatively, if you want to come on a live and we can do a discourse, and you're bringing in some other books that I am not privy to, that could also be an option. What I'm saying is, let's become tribal, let's become community, let's become village, and let's share and pool our resources, because not everyone has access to everything, right? But together we can share what we have and we can figure this stuff out. It's not always going to be simple and straight to the point, and the math should always add, to be fair. But do you know what I mean? But let's figure this out together, because there's been so much misinformation and disinformation out there about how to be healthy and what fads to follow or chase or practice, etc. And ultimately, it does come to bio-individuality, absolutely. And there are also some things that are going to be sort of more broad, like that are going to benefit all of us. Things like going to bed on time. 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. is when really everyone should be sleeping, right? It's again about reacclimating or re-regulating the circadian rhythm to go to bed and rise with the sun, right? But things like nutrition, those require more fine-tuning. Make sense? All right. On that note, thank you everyone that's come to join me. And if you're not watching this on the live, you can still reach out to me afterwards with questions, concerns, and comments. I'm going to go take a yoga class to de-stress, because I've just been blocked on Instagram, and that's pretty stressful. All right, guys. Thank you again. See you all soon. Yeah. Signing off. Bye.